Welcome to the 10th episode. At the end of this episode, you have learned the most important question when you are selling. Now, whether you are selling towards external parties like customers, or you are selling actually a vision internally towards your teammates or employees, in every interaction you can ask yourself this one question: how can I serve you? So a lot of people are thinking about another question all the time: what's in it for me? So by focusing really on the best interests of the person who is sitting in front of you, your customer, your buyer or your colleague, you have framed your mindset on delivering and creating value instead of doing a transaction. Your customer or your client feels immediately that your intention is different than 90% of the people, of the sellers that he or she meets. And this will put you in a very different and special place, the place of the trusted advisor. The great thing about this place, once you get this place, you have it for a lifetime. Of course, when you don't do stupid things. So the customer will then call you for a product or service and asking for your opinion or advice. Sometimes it's also possible that the customer will call you for your opinion or advice that has nothing to do with your product or service. Now we call that, of course, a relationship. And this is something very different than a transaction. And within that relationship, then you can start selling. And it's not about selling one time, but it's selling over and over and over again. And it will not feel as selling, because you're actually providing the other party lots of value. And you make sure that you actually are creating this kind of value. The seed contains actually the potential to grow to a tree or to a plant. So I see actually meeting new people as planting seeds. So I am actually responsible for the experience that they get out of the conversation, as I have a very strong how can I serve you philosophy that will resonate in my non-verbal communication. And this is being picked up by the client, and they feel at ease and they are no longer playing their role. And what is a role? They see me as a seller and they are playing a C-level, a CEO, CTO, whatever manager role they're playing. Is just two human beings who are connecting and exchanging energy. And why? Because I'm not in my role as a seller, but in my role actually as a human being, just like them. And I create as much as value as possible. I don't have to explain to the other person that actually I'm a seller or I'm selling products or services. They know that. At the same time, trust starts to grow between the two parties and you become a trusted advisor. Now in nature, when you plant seeds, some of these seeds become plants or trees, but you don't know it up front. And some of them stay in the ground and some of them will never grow. As I don't know up front which seed is going to grow, I know one thing for sure: if I don't plant seeds, there will be no plants and there will be no trees. So if I don't plant seeds, I cannot harvest. Now, selling one transaction is easy. Selling all the time is more challenging, especially when you have to start from scratch. So actually this means you are the product. This philosophy will also resonate in the network of your buyer, which is full of interesting prospects. Now your buyer has a relationship with these people and so is seen as a trusted instance. And when the buyer is actually introducing you to people in his network, immediately there is a kind of trust because that other person is trusting your customer or buyer. And this means actually that your customer is actually selling for you and you will get a lot of warm referrals. Another thing is you keep feeding the relationship even when there is no transaction. This is the thing actually where most companies and most sellers are failing. They sell and after once it's sold, the customer never ever sees them again, and unless maybe they have to renew the contract and once again they're visiting the customer. Now the customer maybe will sign, but he certainly will not appreciate it, and it will actually decrease the value or the perceived value of your product and service. This means that when somebody else is coming along delivering more value and having actually the same price and the same product doing the same things or service, this means that you are going to open the door for your competitor or an alternative. Now, I find personally the transaction selling method very pushy, and for me it's not a scalable model. It's actually a model where you have to put a lot of effort in it, and it's hard work, and it's not by working hard that you become successful or rich. Otherwise everybody would be a millionaire. So instead of hard working, I prefer smart working. As a bonus, I want to close with this quote of Maya Angelou. Maybe you already heard this quote, but this is so important that I wanted to share it with you. Now, Maya Angelou said, "I've learned that people will forget what you have done, they will forget what you have said, but they will never forget how you made them feel." So this means actually when you're meeting somebody new and you're getting to know that person in whatever context, and you are behaving badly, doing things that are really upsetting the other person or even not showing up anymore. For instance, you sell something and you lie, and the other person is buying the product or service, and you never pick up your phone anymore. Now, this means that this person in 20 years will still remember you. Recently I had a conversation with somebody who was like 10 or 20 years ago at the lowest level of the organization, and he was in contact with a seller. And once it was sold, he never ever responded to his mails or by phone. Of course, the customer didn't like that and had some severe problems and had to take care of it by himself. Then 20 years later, the seller moved to another company, and that same person who was working at the bottom of the organization was now, after 20 years, promoted to a very high function in the organization. And there was a tender, and the seller came in, and the other person saw him, and that person said to himself, "If I ever meet you again, I'm going to make sure that I will never ever going to buy from you again." And this is really a typical case of they have forgotten what the other person has said or done actually, but they never have forgotten how he made him feel. So for me, this is a very, very, very profound message. So really think about your actions and the impression and the perception that you're creating. Thanks a lot for your attention. I'm looking forward to your opinion and comments. If you like this type of content, please click the like button below, or even better, subscribe. I want to thank you for time and attention, and see you next time.